Nairobi's current residents are up in arms over a proposed commuter railway line set to cut through Ngong forest and their residential areas, schools, as well as health facilities. They say the multi-billion shilling meter gauge railway project is not only an economic goof, but also a threat to nature, to heritage, and to the law. Kenya Railways defends the projects, but locals insist they've been sidelined and subjected to compulsory land acquisition quagmire. Is NTV's Laban Shaban with the details.
Inside Ngong forest, just off the traffic-heavy Ngong road, stands Current Surgery Health Center. A quiet medical facility enveloped by one of Nairobi's last remaining green corridors. Today, I am entering this hospital compound not as a patient, but because the hospital itself needs healing. Staff here are anxious. The Ngong railway expansion threatens to slice through their facility, endangering a hospital and 30 years of conservation work.
I wonder what would actually compensate this environment. As you see, this is irreplaceable. Once destroyed, we'll never get this back. Yeah, and we stand to lose a lot.
Current Surgery lies within 15-acre Erocha Conservation Center, home to indigenous trees and healing nature trails. More than a clinic, it's where people and nature have long coexisted until now.
We lease the space from the neighbors. We can't even cut down any tree without permission. The trees just have to fall naturally unless it's like probably in the way of damaging the building or something. Then they come and cut it down. Otherwise, we leave it like that because it's house or a home to the little doodles that live here.
That serenity now faces disruption. The planned rerouter Ngong Railway has sparked fierce opposition from current residents who fear for their homes, heritage, and the fragile Ngong forest ecosystem.
When you have hooting as a standard procedure for approaching of trains at a train station, morning and evening, and there is no explanation even for the noise barriers and how to reduce that, who's going to entertain that surely?
We do not want that noise to wake us up every day at 6 a.m. So if it goes through the forest, that will be better.
Their concerns go beyond the noise.
It is rising above people's properties and invading privacy. Who is going to entertain to have a property of a large value invested here and for you to have those kind of problems?
To many here, it's not just a railway. It's a symbol of being sidelined in a project, they say, ignored both people and the environment. Another section of Karen, Mutero and Mahugu, is led by civil engineer Peter Nduati. He represents about 200 families.
We need to be 100% informed, not after the construction, but before, so that we also own the project.
We are at the draft level.
Residents accuse authorities of backtracking on public engagement, saying participation only came after complaints.
Initially, what triggered us to even have that sit down was after we noted that there was activity on the ground by people who we did not understand what they were doing.
We requested for similar information with our residents, and they were not available to us. In April 2024, we requested for a stakeholder engagement meeting. It was set up for 10th of April 2024, but due to the holidays, it was pushed to the 12th. Our residents attended in numbers and stated their objections, stated their comments on why this project would not be feasible into the neighborhoods.
The construction of the 12.5-kilometer Ngong meter gauge railway, commissioned by President William Ruto on December 15, 2023, is being undertaken by China Road and Bridge Corporation at an estimated cost of 8.2 billion shillings.
Ile nauli munalipa kwenda Karen, kwenda town, itapunguzwa by 50% na hii reli. Na ndio sababu leo tumekuja hapa kuianzisha. Na nimeambia waziri na watu yake ya kwamba hii reli ikamilike ndani ya miezi 8. Iwe imekamilika. Kwa sababu najua inawezekana. Wameniambia 12 months, lakini nimewaambia hizo 12 months hamujakuja hapa kufanya utalii.
The journey begins at Riruta near Lenana School, where the commuter line branches off from the old Nairobi-Kikuyu meter gauge railway. From here, the train snakes its way through Ngong Road Forest, weaving past thick canopies and quiet neighborhoods, before rising onto a 3-kilometer-long elevated bridge, an engineering marvel that spans the southern bypass. The line touches down near the bustling Karen shopping center. The ride then rolls gentle into Mbulbul, a fast-growing town along Ngong Road. Finally, it stretches and ends at Ngong Terminal Station. Designed to ease commuter congestion, the MGR project passes through a mix of residential zones and forested land.
This railway line is an ill-conceived idea, and the amount of money that we are being told is going to be put in there does just not make economic sense. We still want to run locomotives in our country when everybody is embracing electric lines. We should be thinking of trams.
In the city, you use bus rapid transit, BRT, or trams. You don't go to MGR. MGR is for transportation of goods. We are spending as much money on that MGR as we spent on 100 kilometers of road. Can you see the lost investment?
The government, through the National Land Commission, has entered the compensation phase for landowners affected by the railway's construction following a compulsory land acquisition process. The Gazette Notice number 7418, published on June 5, 2025, set public inquiry dates to resolve compensation claims under Section 112 of the Land Act. Affected residents have been directed to appear before the Commission on July 30th, 2025 at the current Chief's office, and on July 31st, 2025 and August 1st, 2025 at the Mbulbul Chief's office. Here, they are expected to present ownership documents, bank details, and claim forms.
I'm mourning and I'm violently opposed to this project because it's passing right in the middle of my land, my only piece of land that I have, that I use my sweat and blood to acquire. But that's not even the issue. We learned about this through a government gazette notice that our piece of land is being taken up for the development of this railway. Nobody approached us, nobody consulted us, nobody sought our opinion.
The residents have written letters to different state departments and stakeholders, raising their concerns with the institutions including the Kenya Railways, National Environment Management Authority, Ministry of Roads and Transport, World Bank, and Kenya Urban Roads Authority. The residents decry lack of prioritization of infrastructural needs, emphasizing the upgrade of Ngong Road from where I am standing at the current roundabout all the way to Ngong.
Their real concern is the road, which is not being completed. So Ngong Road Phase 4, which had a budget in 2021, nothing's been done about that. And now what's being imposed on that design is a railway which had no concept but at the time that they were doing the design for that road. And that is where the real pinch points are. So there are some alternatives. And unfortunately, Kenya Railways was set in their mind. They're myopic about it. They've only got one view of it. And despite the fact that we've tried to portray some alternatives, the first alternative is something which is already built. And that is the SGR line from Ngong Town to Mlolongo. And that was sold to the Kenyan taxpayer.
Oliver Kibble now demonstrates the alternative routes that should have been explored by the government.
The line proposed by Kenya Railways, which goes through Karen, starts at this Ngong station and follows this white line here down the road, which I would describe as a lazy alternative because nobody's thought about it, and comes out there. And that distance from there to there is 11 kilometers or more than 11 kilometers of new build. And the alternative, which is been shown, people have looked at, is to actually this blue line here, which cuts through government land, which is veterinary here, and forestry, which is here, and joins up with the 130-year-old MGR at this point here near Dagoretti.
Some of the alternative routes we have looked at are going through government forest areas and some farms. So there'll be a few private landowners who will be affected, but it's more farm area.
They allege their attempts to engage seriously with Kenya Railways and partners have been met with disdain.
We requested additional information and documents such as the feasibility study, the environmental impact assessment report, the resettlement action plan, but these documents have never been appealed to us.
There is very little interest from Kenya Railways in getting the stakeholders to subscribe to the project.
The National Environment Management Authority is under fire from the residents for giving a permit to Kenya Railway Corporation to proceed with the MGR line project.
NEMA gave them a license, yes, but it's against the law. That ESIA was done after the project had already been started. If you go and do it after, you're only going to rubber stamp.
According to NEMA, the environmental and social impact assessment study began immediately after the contract was signed, with the first meeting between the consultant and client held on October 11, 2023. Their records show field assessments involving 614 participants were conducted from January 16th to 19th, 2024, followed by public consultations between November 2023 and April 2024. NEMA concludes that the proposed rerouter Ngong MGR commuter line is a key infrastructure project expected to ease congestion on Ngong Road, offer affordable transport, and improve livelihoods.
Rather than proceeding with this project as it is at the moment, we should be carrying out a proper feasibility study which would look at alternatives to this, which are less disruptive and have less social impact and are potentially economically more feasible.
On May 19th, 2025, the Environment and Land Court issued a ruling in Land Case Petition E017 of 2025 involving the current Ngong View Estate Association and Kenya Railways Corporation. While the court allowed a preliminary objection raised by the respondents, it did not dismiss the petition entirely, citing the presence of other constitutional issues. The court also disallowed the petitioner's application for conservatory orders to halt the railway construction, pending the hearing and determination of the petition. We reached out to Kenya Railways and NEMA for a response to the concerns raised, including environmental impact, public participation, and land acquisition. But they had not responded by the time of airing this report. Laban Shaban, NTV.